So a very, very warm welcome to every single one of you this evening for our Azeri wine adventure. How exciting is this? This has been in the planning for many months, but I must give a huge big thanks to Broach Associates for inviting the RLWS community to be part of this amazing event, and also the Azerbaijan Tourist Board for making this possible, and of course for Chabiant Winery for their generous donation to us all, and they're meeting us this evening to tell us about these amazing wines. Elizabeth, over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Rebecca, and thank you to each and every one of you in the fine wine community and in London, across the UK, and indeed around the world. We have many guests joining us from the far corners of the globe, from California to South Africa. I'm based, as you know, in London, and it's just such a pleasure to welcome all of you, and especially to extend our gratitude and thanks to the Azerbaijan Tourism Board and to Chabiant for so generously sponsoring this evening's event. Andrea and Giulio, our guests, we are so looking forward to hearing from both of you. This particular event, hosted by Rebecca and her wine school, is part of a series that examines the drivers of cultural and societal diplomacy. And as we know, there are so many lenses through which to understand a culture and society, but wine and the world of wine and the world of agriculture and the appreciation of wine is one of the most important. In fact, I often see so many parallels between the world of wine and the world of diplomacy, in part because a very good diplomat is an excellent conversationalist, and a very good bottle of wine is, of course, the beginning of a wonderful conversation. Diplomats often and always tell stories, of course, of where they're from and what that country is like and what that land is like. And that's the story, of course, that the wine tells. So the mirrors and the parallels between diplomacy and wine are paramount. But what's fascinating in this particular case is those voices, those diplomats of the land, are harder to hear from when your wine region is an emerging region, when your wine industry is an emerging industry. And so what a real pleasure it is, especially amongst this community of wine lovers, that we're able to spend this next hour and a half together in Azerbaijan and in this fascinating region that's also an emerging wine industry and wine region. As each of you know, none of these wines are available to buy in the UK. And so it is rather fitting, given that special relationship between the world of diplomacy and the world of wine, that since October, the Azerbaijan Tourism Board and Chabiant has helped us through using diplomatic channels to bring these wines to each of our households via the embassy network. And I had the pleasure of personally picking up all of the boxes at the embassy here in London, in Kensington, and helping to facilitate that distribution process to all of the households gathered within the UK. So truly a remarkable occasion, and we're just so thrilled to see everyone here. As a reminder, this event is entirely on the record and is recorded, but we do hope that you'll ask your questions, you'll participate in this tasting, and of course, if you have questions after the event, we're more than happy to help facilitate those between our networks in Azerbaijan through the Tourism Board and through Chabiant and our guests here this evening. So with that, Rebecca, I pass over to you with just very, very many thanks for hosting us today.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, and thank you also to our very special guests. So we have Andrea, who is the head winemaker at Chabiant, and he has a little number on his screen which is 02, so you can identify him easily, and he will be talking to us a lot about his beautiful wines. And then we're also blessed to have Giulio Vinaccia, who is a designer and design consultant and is really done amazing work studying all the ancient crafts of Azerbaijan, and has a lovely experiences to share with us as well. So welcome to you both, and welcome to everybody once again. So I'm sharing my screen with you, So let me just check that you can all see the screen. Is that good? Everyone happy with the screen? Is that good, Elizabeth?
That's perfect, Rebecca.
Perfect. Okay, excellent. So just a reminder, please sip away with your wines. Please keep your microphone turned off. But of course, we want you to turn it on when you have a question. And we're very keen that we help answer all your questions this evening. And of course, you have a tasting mat. We have wine 1, which is a white wine. It is the Chabiant Winery. We have wine 2, which is the Chabiant Madrasa. And then we have wine 3, which is the blend between Cabernet Sauvignon and Saperavi. So we hope to spend about 15 minutes on each wine and then finish the session with questions and answers. Look at that view. Isn't it just amazing? Look at the Caucasus. Aren't they just incredible? What a setting for growing grapes. Incredibly exciting. We can't wait to hear from you, Andrea, about the beautiful climate and what makes it so good. Of course, Google is very helpful these days to help us see where countries are in relations to others. So I put that on the screen for you, but I'm going to home in straight on this map because it just helps us to remember that we're right on the Caspian Sea here in Azerbaijan, and we're bordered by Russia, by Armenia, by Iran, by Georgia, of course, and Turkey. So we've got lots of geographical interest. Of course, the Caspian Sea must be a huge influence, as well as the Caucasus, and how, you know, what channels in from the sea. So we're looking forward to hearing all of that from Andrea. So Andrea, over to you. Would you start by telling us a little something about the climate of Azerbaijan, and then home in particular to the climate of your wine region? And I will bring the map back for everybody to see as you do that.
Ciao, Rebecca. First of all, hello to everyone. I'm so grateful to be here to hold with you this Salon, and thanks really much to give us this opportunity, to you, to Tourist Board. We are so happy to have this chance. So about the climate of Azerbaijan, it's pretty small country, but with a full and diversified climate due to the many mountain chain and the Caspian Sea. So you can divide Azerbaijan in 3 biggest areas in terms of climate. So we have in the south, close to the Iran, where we have a subtropical climate, where it's great for the fruits and for the how do you call it? The fruit, the orange, the lemon, and this kind of fruits, but not for the vines. Yeah, exactly where you are pointing out. Then we have Baku, where we have sandy. Of course, the soil and the climate is really connected with the Caspian Sea, with a high salinity around. But and this is historically the place where the table grapes were grown, even indigenous varieties. We have this upper part, Guba, that area, which is famous for the apple, but we have also the vines there. Major winery are located there as well. And then we have our place, which is known like from the Russian time, like the Shirvan area. So it was the most popular in across the Russian due to the good climate for the grapes, of course. And this is true. After my experience here, I can say this is the best region for wine growing because we have the combination and we have the Caspian Sea breeze that shot and eat the cooling wind and the cooling temperature that come from the Great Caucasian. So this led the area to have a warm day and cooler night. You know how it's important in the wine growing to have this changing of temperature during the night and during the daylight. And in there we have, as well as we have specific soil due and originated by the disgregation of the Great Caucasian thanks to the snow. So they are really interesting place where you can produce up to 700, 800 meters on the sea level. That's something that in Europe is pretty unusual. But thanks to the Caspian Sea, we can grow up to that meters.
Amazing, amazing. And so your area is here, isn't it?
Exactly,
Your
exactly.
winery is here.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
called Ismaili. Is that right? Ismaili.
That you spell perfectly. Better than me for sure, because here in Azerbaijan I always say that I don't spell well. You say perfect.
And you've got this amazing river here as well that really, you know, completely traverses the whole country. That must be very exciting as well.
That is Mingachevi Lake, very important reservoir for Azerbaijan, and then you have the river. Our vineyards, our winery is located close to Ivanovka, in a village called Ajadamli. Ajadamli, it's where there is the winery. But we have vineyards all around Ismaili and Goichai, close to the river that you mentioned.
Amazing, amazing. So thank you so much for that introduction to the climate, reminding us that you're 800 meters high, reminding us that you have very hot days in the growing season, but very cool nights, reminding us that you have all these breezes coming in from the Caspian Sea. And of course, that you've got this amazing corridor of the Caucasus Mountains. You've got the greater Caucasus, you're in the foothills of those, and then there's a sort of corridor the other side of the smaller range. So you've very kindly sent us this first wine, a white wine, and the grape variety is called Bayan Shira.
Exactly.
And would you like to tell us a little bit about this grape variety, Bayan Shira?
Okay, first of all, let's clear with the Shira second name, because it's common question. It's not connected with the Syrah, the international Syrah. There is nothing connected. It just spelled similar, but there is not any connection with the Syrah.
Understood.
Yeah, it's an indigenous variety. You can find just in Azerbaijan. I just found here across of my travel around the Caucasian and this territory. You can find just little in Uzbekistan, but just because the Azerbaijani teach the Uzbekistan people how to grow grapes during the Soviet time, but for the rest, it's just in Azerbaijan. So this is really specific from here. I start to work with these grapes in 2010, just years after I was invited to work here. And along the years, I experienced with this Bayan Shira. The Bayan Shira is a simple past, we say, is a simple grapes. So it's a grapes which has not aromas on the grapes, but we have to work and to make this wine during the fermentation. So we made really in the respect of the grapes. So we want to deliver to the customers, to our clients, what comes from the grapes. So it's just a little maturation. It's a little, how do you say, soaking for 1 hour in the press. And then we separate immediately the juice from the skin and the seeds, and we ferment in stain less till for around 30 days. This is the procedure. Then the work is to make what we call batonnage. Rebecca, you know what it means, no? It means batonnage.
Right. So but I think most people do know what batonnage means, but if you want to give a very, very brief description, that could be perfect.
Oh, perfect.
So thank you very much. I'll just wait for your signal.
So don't separate the depth least the sediment from the wine, but we use this sediment that is rich in many content good for the wine, and we spread usually for a time per week into the tanks. So when the sediment goes down, we move again we homogenize with the wine, and this is improve the wine taste, the body, and of course it's full of antioxidants, the lees. So there is a lot of good things to make this kind of technique, and we found very good for Bayan Shiraz.
That is amazing. So, thank you. So very, very interesting that you described it as not being an aromatic grape. So therefore you want to coax the aromas out through possibly your temperature of fermentation, from the fact that you're using stainless steel vats to retain the freshness and the fruitiness of the wine. And certainly when I put my nose in the glass, I'm really struck by a beautiful flurry of floral aromas. It's very, very refreshing. And I'm also thinking I'm detecting just a little tiny touch of biscuit. You've told us that you like to do the batonnage. So the batonnage, as you explained, is stirring up the yeasts after they've done the alcoholic fermentation, and it just broadens out the aroma, broadens out the texture. So let's put it on the palate. Here we go. So beautifully dry to the tip of the tongue, immediately refreshing. So all the acidity is kicking in and whirring around. Very, very refreshing. Quite medium bodied, I would say. And then a lovely platform for these floral notes and appley notes and citrusy notes. But I do like this weight that you've given with the leaves. It's not, you know, they're still thinking it's floral. So the leaves aren't detracting from the floral notes, the clean, fresh elegance of the wine, but it just giving a nice little bit of body there, and a lovely finish on the wine. So it's a beautiful start to our tasting. This is a new grape variety for many of us. So if you were to sort of liken it to another grape variety, Andrea, which variety might you choose? You know, so many grape varieties.
You know, to get inspiration at the beginning, you have to find some similarity with the grapes you are close. So I try to work like we work with our Trebbiano in Tuscany. In Tuscany, it's a simple, what we call a simple paste grapes. So it's a gentle, it's not powerful grapes. So I work and I compare like a Trebbiano, and I found the good path, the good way, and the good philosophy in winemaking, following this kind of strategy. And I can compare this even in the kind of color is really light yellow, you know, so
pale.
It's pale, so is a nice sign of how is delicate the grapes.
I think that's very interesting for us all to think about Trebbiano from Italy and have that comparison in our mind. And then we see that you're recommending all sorts of different refreshing foods to match with it, and I know quite a few have been having a cooking feast as well to create wine dishes with the wines. But shall we just move on? I know there's going to be lots of questions about that wine. Let's move on, and then we can have the questions at the end. So wine number 2, our first red wine. And this is a grape variety called Madrasa. So this is a great variety I'd never heard of before. So very, very excited about that. So Andrea, what would you like to tell us about madrasa?
Oh, there is many things to say about madrasa, and it's as well as Bayan Shira. It's an indigenous variety, and it's well known in Azerbaijan. Any winery here has madrasa, and with the time, the people and the winery are understanding that we have to rely on our indigenous grapes, and most of them now they are producing madrasa. This is making me happy beside of Chabiant. So we are all together to produce this madrasa. At the beginning, madrasa was something really new for me as well, and there was confusion because in the old people they used to say madrasa for many kind of grapes. With the time, we select as Chabiant, as Andrea and Marco, that we are the winemaker there, the clone of madrasa, and we are working with this clone of madrasa. It's a little bit wildish grapes in terms, you can really get that impression when you see the vineyards. He produced very small grapes. He has a lot of leaf. So that is a sign that the grape is not so educated, is not so, the human doesn't work so much with these grapes. And
can I just interrupt there? So it's a small grape, and that's because it hasn't really been cultivated so much, or is that a sign of quality that it's such a small grape?
That is both. In terms of the grapes is not that small, but there is not high production per plants. So you don't need as well as other like Merlot, that you have to usually, if you want to get quality, you have to half the production. You know, we use the technique of green harvest. We say in Italy. I don't know if in madrasa, you need just to take care of what the plant give you. So you have a grapes which is not too compact. That is good for our climate. The mold and the black rot, this kind of rotten doesn't attack the grapes. That is important, and the quality is good. The ratio between skin and pulp is and it's in juice. It's very nice. So yes, it's wild, but you don't need to have to struggle in the vineyards. You need just to take care about the growing, because he tend to grow strongly. So you need to quiet the plants. This is the only things that you have to take care. About the wine, despite of what it's grapes which require attentive extraction. So it's not so easy to extract the color from these grapes. It looks the grapes really, really powerful. He has colors, but you need to work hard to have the best extraction of the color from the skin, a gentle extraction, because if you overwork during the fermentation, you can have greeny, you say, this green feeling and the taste from the seeds, which never ripe properly. So this is because it's pretty wildish, so it's not very easy in the terms of ripeness, and so we have to work pretty delicately during the pre-fermentation, where we keep in the cold for a few days. Then we ferment, usually it lasts 10-15 days. Then we test. When the test say, okay, we have the right extraction, we just devat, we separate, and we press gently the skin, and then start the aging, which it's again in the respect of the fruitness of the grapes. This is our philosophy, and why it's a Chabiant philosophy. The owners and me, we are agreed that we don't want to cover with too much wood the wine, but we want to give the most flavors from the grapes. So 70% is in the stained steel. Of course, we work in the stained steel, so we keep care about the wine in the respect of the fruitiness. Then 30% in third passage barrique. The barrique has the only aim to structurize, to improve the tannin, to make the tannin better and less aggressive during the aging.
That's very interesting. So would the barriques, where would the barriques come from? Where would the wood for the barriques initiate from?
Okay, the good question. We buy from France third and second passage. We use the second passage for Saperavi and the third passage for barrique. We are now switching. We are now switching from barrique to 800 liters barrels vet.
All right.
But will be in the next. This is the first release. So 2017 is the first madrasa made in Chabiant.
So we're even
more. It's a new baby.
Even more lucky to have the first release. Yeah. Well, let's investigate. So beautiful, rich color. Again, lovely depth of color. Still a ruby color, but very bright. Really beautifully bright. Nose in the glass. And for me, what comes across is really beautifully ripe black cherries. I'm thinking black fruits, but opulently ripe, just conveying a juiciness, when fruits are they're bursting with ripeness. That's what comes to my mind. And maybe some little touches of pepper on the nose as well. Let's try it on the palate. So the wine is very dry to the tip of the tongue. There's lots of tingling on the sides of the mouth, so this is the acidity. The acidity is alive and kicking. But then you also have this lovely framework of tannin, peppery tannin all around the insides of the palate, just framing this beautiful fruit. It's just like a lovely frame, like a lovely frame of a beautiful picture. That's how I see these tannins. And yes, the wine is medium bodied. Again, the balance of the wine is absolutely beautiful. So I guess we're picking up a little bit of the fact that it has been in wood, because we know air comes into the wood and softens the fruit and softens the tannins. You said that this grape has quite a thick skin. You said that this is a naturally low yielding vine, so everything in the grape is quite concentrated. But at the same time, you said it's a challenge to get really ripe because of those seeds. You want them really ripe, so you don't want to work the skins too much to not have any. You don't want any of those green notes. Well, I can't see evidence of any of them at all. It's just a beautifully rich wine. So again, I think we'd all find it quite interesting, Andrea. This is a new grape variety for us. We're ever so thrilled to be tasting the first release. Do you have another grape variety that we may have heard of that you sort of see it slightly similar to? Of course, not the same, but does this Madrasa remind you of any other grape variety? Perhaps.
Honestly, I will force this comparison because I tried, and what I can say to you, it's that I have experience with Grenache, with the Bovale Grenache from Sardinia. I used to work there for a long time. And I don't know if you know Cannonau, probably yes. It's a sort of Grenache. Okay. And I had the similar problem because they are grapes with a lot of colors, and but then it's not that easy to extract from the skin, or it's not a stable color, so you have to work. And I found similar to a Grenache, not in terms of, but in terms of how I work and how I can get the best result. So with Grenache, usually I work in this way. I cool for 3 days at 6, 7, 8 degrees, and then I ferment. And I found this useful and that match with the madrasa. But in terms of tasting, I'm still struggling to compare to some. Maybe you can help me out, Rebecca.
Well,
can.
One of the great varieties that came to my mind, but we can easily confuse it with a place in Italy as well, but the great variety called Montepulciano.
Montepulciano.
So this is a great variety that has quite a bit of tannin, very ripe black fruit. It's a speciality in the Marche. So in the, well, you know, of course, I'm just reminding us all really of the, you know, the calf of Italy. What do you think of that one, Andrea?
Well, I came just from Italy, from a tasting of Montepulciano, exactly Pugnitello. And when you say Montepulciano, it's too hard, because I went in Puglia, and Montepulciano is a fruitness, it's an explosion of strawberry and this cherry, but even wild red fruits. It's really, for me, is puzzle me. The Montepulciano, because Abruzzo Montepulciano instead, that I taste as well during my travel in Montepulciano experience, it was totally different. So, but I agree with you, it can remind. But you know, I have always this technical approach, which if I see how I work with Montepulciano in Tuscany, we use Pugnitello. Maybe I send you one bottle of Pugnitello. It's a cousin of Montepulciano. Probably you don't know about Pugnitello. It's really specific. It's totally different. How if I work the Montepulciano as I work Madrasa, I don't get the result that I want.
I see. Well, I think the other thing that's really striking us is the fact that, and what's exciting us, is the fact that these are indigenous grape varieties to Azerbaijan. I mean, that is hugely exciting for us. And I'm sure there'll be lots of questions for you about your work on these indigenous grape varieties that you're introducing to us. And I know that, Giulio, you have worked tirelessly as well to discover the ancient crafts that have come, that are in Azerbaijan, that perhaps we may have some inkling of if we've watched or read about the Silk Road. But we know that you've been adventurous, haven't you, in your explorations to find these special crafts to Azerbaijan?
No, let's say that welcome everybody. I'm very thank to you to invite me on this session. I'm really happy because finally I'm not in a design session, but I want wine testing. Is much comfortable and much better than to talk about graphics and design. But let's say that all the people who work in creation are always try to look in the lost world, where the countries, where the culture, our Western culture, meet the East. And I traveled all around. I was working more than 20 countries of the world. And finally, I found a place. Let's say I found the lost continent is at Azerbaijan. Is where all where all the culture are mixed, because probably of the geographical position and because the Silk Road across the country interiorly. So what is amazing, as I was talking about that, is I already were in all over the world analyzing primitive culture in Amazonian, in Brazil, going in the south of China, in the middle of the villages where no one is white, let's say is Caucasian like me. But when I started working on the villages in Azerbaijan, I found a diversity that was really amazing, because at the same time you have Iranian element mixed with Italian elements. And as I tell you before, I don't know, for example, I was in Shaki is one of the villages, the city I love
Yes,
more.
that's on our map. That's right in
Yeah,
the north there. If anyone's got their map to hand,
must,
northwest of
you must
Ishmael.
go. It's my favorite. It's like the Firenze, let's say, of Azerbaijan, in my point of view.
Wow,
And
that's a statement, isn't it? The Firenze.
yeah, it's
Amazing.
kind of that, because Firenze have the many points. It's not only the architecture, it's the culture, it's the food, and it's also the handicraft. So all this culture you find in Shaki. And in Shaki, I was invited to visit the Shaki Khan palace, and it's completely full of Murano glass. So I say, come on, how this glass arrived here? We are in the middle of Caucasus. It's far away from Venice, and we were talking about 300 years ago. And they say, no, my friend, it's very easy. We are in the Silk Road, and during the Silk Road, the trader was traveling and was selling products all over. And Shaki was one of the most important points where the caravan was stopped because of the winter time.
I see, stopping in the winter.
Yeah, they was waiting 4 or 5 months until the snow go.
Amazing.
So you found this mixed culture, and this is happening in all Azerbaijan. This mixing culture between East and West in a very, very small country, because you don't need to travel kilometers to go from one place to another. And what is amazing is, for me, food, and like all the Italians, wine, food is part of a culture. But for example, I bring one element. I don't know if I can show you.
Ooh.
This is a perfect ceramic product, very tribal. And I was amazed. I don't speak Azerbaijani. I say, okay, what is this? And I was thinking, this is a very nice decoration. They say, no, this is a mold for make bread.
No.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, what is the difference from a culture to make food or to make culture? Is that someone spent some time to make in pottery this beautiful product, to make only a decoration for bread.
Amazing.
So
Amazing.
this is an example of how the things are, I cannot say generally, but in many, many places. And so you are crossing, and if you take a car from Shaki and you go to Lauch, it's a 1 hour driving in a very nice road, you arrive to another country, another world, because these people are coming from another tradition. Let's say they are other lost tribes that remain in the Caucasus, and they have another tradition. So
and a different language.
This is my experience. I'm so happy to tell about, because nobody asked me about Azerbaijan, but
well, we want to ask you loads of questions, and that was an amazing start. And I think we're all inspired by that, just how you said the beauty in that ceramic piece to decorate the bread. That is just beautiful. So more questions, I'm sure, Giulio, are being lined up. But why don't we now move to wine number 3? So wine number 3 is our blended wine. So here we have a grape variety that we're very familiar with, Cabernet Sauvignon, and blended with a grape variety called Saperavi. Saperavi. So Saperavi, we don't hear about this grape variety too much, but I think we're starting to hear about it a little bit more. So over to you, Andrea. Please tell us about Saperavi and tell us what it's like growing Cabernet Sauvignon in Ismail at Chabiant.
Okay, Rebecca. Saperavi for you is uncommon grapes, but me, that is 10 years that And here it's the most popular grapes in this area, not just in Azerbaijan, but in all Caucasus, in all Russia. Saperavi is the king of red grapes, and there is a reason he's the king of the grapes.
Okay.
It's really flexible grapes. You can make a great wine, great structure, great color. So kind in the vineyards. He grew in this area where he's originated, because don't forget, this is is not indigenous from Azerbaijan, but it's from Caucasus, the grapes. So, and he find itself the right place here. In fact, I taste the Saperavi from Romania, from the east of Europe up to Uzbekistan, let's say. But I can say that the best Saperavi it's around Azerbaijan, Georgia, and the south of Russia on the Black Sea. This is where he give the best result, from my point of view. So. Saperavi we use in Chabiant Winery to make our best grapes. Is a grapes that can afford, can be aged in the barrels. Is that kind of structure that need the barrels mainly. And the Cabernet is 30% in this blend we have in our winery. So we use, and it is a good companion with Saperavi. So when I don't like Cabernet, it's when you blend with weaker grapes. But Saperavi, even if there is 30% of Sauvignon, which is pretty important, percentage, Saperavi win. So you can have the Saperavi taste and aroma in your glass, and they are similar in terms of the spiciness. So when I ferment, probably I didn't mention, because it's one of our trick, Marco, and is we ferment with 20% of steams inside of the tanks, because the Saperavi stems.
Yes.
Stems. When it is well ripe, give this black pepper aroma that I love. This is I love to find a pepper like Shiraz, let's say.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and and the Cabernet has the same pepper bell, ripe pepper bell aroma. So I found it perfect. This is not an indigenous variety, and so I like to blend. I blend. That's why I don't do it with indigenous grapes.
I see. So that's very interesting. Keeping the indigenous grapes very pure, Azerbaijani flavors. And am I right in thinking that the Saperavi grape has a very rich color in its juice? Am I right?
It's impressive the amount of color that you can get from these grapes. Our Saperavi has two clones. One, it's the result is more elegance, keep more acidity and more spiciness, which is what we call the elliptic Saperavi. So the berry is an elliptic shape, and the rounded, which is much more fruity. And this is the blend of the two Saperavi inside of these grapes. And we ferment separately, but both have a huge amount of polyphenolic structure.
That's fantastic. And so would you say that the Saperavi juice is actually red? Is it actually red juice, or is it still a clear juice that you just get lots of?
Yeah, let's say it's not red like Alicante, Boucher, but it's red. So it's really, the challenge here is not to extract the color like in Madrasa, but is to dominate the color. So to structure this amount of colors, one of the most important things is winemaking is to accompany the wine, not to modify the wine. So accompany the wine means let the wine to preserve the color at the beginning. So we have to work hard to make this color stable. And that's why we make a longer fermentation. When the fermentation is over, we keep the grapes in contact with the skin. So the alcohol extract the last part, then we taste when we feel that the tannin got the amount that we need for our wine, we devat. And in this case, we keep 15 days in the contact, more or less.
So if I may,
please,
is
please.
one of the reasons that you put the stems in because of this rich color that you get from the saperavi? You
Exactly.
So the stems actually help fix the color. They might even absorb a little bit of the color, and it helps keep it all in check. Would that be a reason?
Yeah. It's a pity. When the border will be open, I will invite you to come here and we go during the harvest.
Wait.
Yeah.
We can't wait for the RLWS Azerbaijan trip.
This is a promise. You'll be my guest, Rebecca, and Elizabeth as well, and all of you that you want to come.
Everybody, yeah.
Yeah.
So
yes, we found better colors at the end of the fermentation. So it's like a little sponge which remove the extra colors. It's a substrate for the fermentation. We see also the malolactic improve, keeping the stems. Don't ask me why, but we see that the malolactic fermentation, or what you call the second fermentation, it's improved in terms because here we have cold, the cold temperature come really fast, so we have to have the second fermentation really in short time after the first fermentation. And then it's a spicy steams. So I like, because here lays this spicy taste and sensation.
Yeah. So on the nose, I mean, there's a beautiful rich color. Again, it's still in the ruby phase, but maybe if you compare it to the madrasa, maybe the madrasa has got a little bit more of the ruby. You can just see maybe those ideas in the wine of maybe eventually becoming garnet at the end. And of course, it's had much more aging and in barrique. But on the nose, there's a very, very attractive nose of spice, of vanilla, of earthiness, of forest floor, but also these beautiful red and black fruits. So whereas for me, the other wine, the previous wine, was more black fruits, here we've got peeping through red fruits and black fruits and forest floor. So lots of tertiary words as well as primary words to describe this wine, and even secondary words. So again, all that complexity on the nose is giving us a lot of promise of how this wine is going to age. Let's go on the palate with the wine. So dry, high acidity, but my focus goes entirely on the full body here. The full body of rich fruits, but also the spiciness that you mentioned, the vanilla that you mentioned, the forest floor, the tertiary words are kicking right in. So the forest floor, the earth, the tobacco, the cedar, as well as the red and black fruits, and this pepperiness of tannin still there, but we want it there for when we have our dishes of protein, which will be beautifully combined with those tannins, which are very subtle. They're not to the fore at all, but just upholding the wine. And of course, we know Cabernet Sauvignon has good tannin, and we know from your lovely description that you've had the stems in there to help with the color, with the saperavi, which is a sort of more juicy grape variety to blend in with it. And then of course you've got a whole broad chorus on the finish, so lovely flavors of red and black fruits all coming at the same time, like a big choral symphony. Altos, sopranos, tenors, basses, they're all at it on this finish. Absolutely fantastic. So I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions about the wine and more details of the wine. I'm wondering, would this be a good time, Elizabeth, do you think, to open up questions from the floor? Because I'm sure lots of you have got questions to ask Andrea about the winemaking, about maybe the collection of the indigenous grape varieties, the passion for that and how you go about it. And then, of course, the wonderful culture of Azerbaijan and the very special skills that Giulio has discovered through all his extensive travels. Would that be a good idea? Do you think, Elizabeth? Should we go?
Yes,
go ahead with
yes,
that?
absolutely, Rebecca. Thank you so much. I personally have had the pleasure of visiting Baku, but not the wine region. So Andrea and Giulia, you're getting us very, very excited about getting to travel again, which is just around the corner. But yes, opening to questions sounds absolutely perfect at this time. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so please, has anybody got a question that they would like to begin the question and answer series with? Thank you. Edward has the first question. Over to
Actually,
you.
Katie does. It's actually me.
Katie, thank you.
So my question was, why do you think it's so important to use and to sort of keep the heritage of the traditional grape varieties for Azerbaijan?
And actually, I've got another bit on that, which is, does that make it more difficult to export your wines? And how do you think about that trade-off when you're deciding whether to grow a local grape or an international grape?
Fantastic. So two parts to that question. The first part is, why is it so important to have the focus on the indigenous grape varieties? And second point, how will that help your marketplace, and in particular, your international marketplace?
Yeah, definitely is the good path to believe in indigenous, not just in Azerbaijan, but is the way to move and to talk about the heritage. You know how the wine, it's a way to talk about the culture, and not through the international variety, of course, but through the local variety. And I can assure you how the interesting in Azerbaijan is skyrocket when we start to have more local variety on the Azerbaijan stand and the wineries and the fair, rather than when at the beginning in the 2005, when they start again with the wine business to recover the wine business. There was a lot of international variety, and how we saw the interesting of Azerbaijan growing up since we have been producing more and more local varieties. So it's very important. It's basically the first rules for the wine industry in general. You know, you can find Cabernet Sauvignon or Merlot or Syrah all around the world. Why you should drink a Syrah from Azerbaijan or a Merlot from Azerbaijan? But you can find Madrasa, Bayan Shiraz, and we are talking about only these two varieties because today, unfortunately, we have only these two varieties available for the market. But I have Arnagarna, we have Melai, King Doni, Shirvanshah. So we are working a lot. You know how in our business the time is so relatively long. So it's 3 years we are working with the others local variety, but it will take maybe 5 years to be with the first wine. So we hopefully will reach that point. So this is where we are focused, and yes, it helps a lot, and it will help even more once we have more indigenous varieties.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. And so we've got quite a few wonderful comments as well. So Dominic said he loved the mouth-filling texture of the Madrasa, and Chris agreed. And Dominic said he feels it's much richer than a Montepulciano, but the nose is more discreet. And then Rowena has suggested maybe we could liken it to a Primitivo. And then Sue has asked, Sue, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, thank you, Rebecca. I was very struck, Andrea, by the picture that you showed of the Caucasus. And I just wondered if you could briefly describe what the soils are like and canopy management.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely question, Sue. Thank you. So some details on the soils, and how do you look after the canopies of these beautiful grapevines?
Okay, the soil and the canopy. In our winery, overall, we have around 250 hectares, so it's pretty big. From the Chabiant, our lines, our Chabiant line comes from the best vineyards that we detected through the years. So the rest we have also bigger production just for Russian and China market, just to be clear, give you the full pictures. This is, we work like a chateau, okay? It's like, and we have overall 50,000 barrels per year. Our soil, it's mainly from the disgregation of the Great Caucasus. We have a lot of calcidium, and the soil is organic, so it's pretty black. So we have rich soil that is good for the white and calcidium and mineral, because we have this white spot. You can spot the white spot around the soil anywhere, and the white wine, it's perfect. It's became a little bit tougher with the red grapes due to the organic matters. So the plant tend to be a little bit nasty in terms of they want to produce green vegetation instead of grapes. So we have to say them, hey boy, calm down and calm down, think about the grapes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our vineyards is totally organic. We are not certified, to be clear, but we do just in a biological way, because it's with the right management. The vineyards are not, they are 5,000 plants per hectare, so they are not so squeezed, or so we have a good aeration. There is the breeze, which it doesn't, it helps a lot in that. And the canopy is a double guyot. So we are not, when we came in the winery in 2016, it was a winery from Russian period, abandoned. So we found the plants a bit wildish. Right. So we found, so we turned the plants again to what we call archetto in Italian, or double guyot. And for Saperavi, that is similar to a Syrah, where the first buds are not, they're not producing grapes, is the best way. So you can give them the space to grow with the double guyot. So if they are a little bit strong, you can let them go a little bit. And at the same time, it's easy also from the point of management for our worker to understand the canopy has guyot rather than cordon, you say in English, I don't know. So yeah, it's easy, and you make cleaner. Yeah, so it's much better for, and you give a lot more point of vegetation to the plants. We create the heads on the plants, so there you can find the best buds to churn for the years, the upcoming years. I hope it's clear what I said. Sometimes my English get, it's a macaronic English.
Very good English.
Thank you very much.
And it sounds like you have a beautiful climate that really aids the ripening, and that your stewards of the land just nudging. So we've got some more questions. So Dominic, would you like to ask your question? We're all foodies in the audience, Andrea and Giulio. So I think Dominic is going to ask about some food ideas.
Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, no, I've really enjoyed the wines this evening. I started drinking them at 5 o'clock before you came online, and it's pizza night at my house tonight, so that's what we'll be having. The white wine, I thought it was lovely and fresh. I love the texture of it, and I wondered if that would pair well with local Caspian caviar. And then when on the red wines, I was very, very impressed with the Madrasa, actually more so than the Saperavi. Cabernet blend, and I wondered if the local variety is really what you do well, more so than pandering to the international fads. But tell us about the cuisine of Azerbaijan and what goes with what grows.
What goes with what grows. I love it. I love it. And the Caspian Sea, what does it offer to go with the wines? So Giulio, are you keen on your dishes with the different wines and teas? Where do you go with your dishes?
Let's say that I am a designer. I'm not a food expert, but like all the Italians, I consider when the system to understand a culture is start eating a local food. Let's say again, I don't want to repeat again the same story, but with the food, it's happening exactly the same. With the handicraft or the architecture, it's a mix. The Azerbaijani gastronomy is a mix of different influence. So you can ask a dish and you start having the flavor of a very, very Middle East food, and from one moment to another you arrive to Spain. So again, is the mixing of a culture produce also a mixing and a big variety of food. Regarding my previous experience before knowing this fantastic world of wine of Azerbaijan, I was traveling, and normally the people drinks a lot of tea. So I am an expert about tea drinking in Azerbaijan, and about sweets, because the people are very, very kind. And for sure, when you are in a small village, they offer you a tea. There is a fantastic marmalade of rose marmalade, and they give to you like a dish. Is not covered with a bread, but you eat like spoon of. It's all very sweet, but you balance with the tea and or coffee. It depends of again in which town you are. If you are in some towns have some characteristic, other one have some different cultures. But let's say return to the wine. I think that all these wines works very well with the local gastronomy, because the red wines, I understood from your talks, have a good personality, and also the food from Azerbaijan have a very good personality. It's not, let's say, a food for people who want to have like a typical, very light food. It's a food with personality.
So it's quite rich and flavorful.
Yeah.
And I think your point is very interesting, talking about all the different cultures that have settled there over time through having traveled on the Silk Road and needing to stop and rest and maybe wait for the snow to melt, and then suddenly finding that you're not wanting to leave, and how this has led to this extraordinary array of mix of cultures is incredible. And this is clearly having a huge influence on the cuisine. I know that we sent some menu inspiration to everybody, and that was very much linked, at one point with meat dishes, and particularly sort of roasted meats. And you were talking earlier, I think if I understood correctly, you were talking about being in Sheki, and seeing how they cook outside. This special people here have this amazing way of cooking. I notice on YouTube it's billed as the best burger ever, but this video goes on forever, and it's just
all over the streets and the highway. No, let's say highway. No, the way to go to Sheki, to other villages. There are traditional restaurant. Let's say restaurant is not exactly the name, where you can find fresh made breads with fresh made cheese, all very, very simple but excellent. So I was with my driver because I don't drive in Azerbaijan, and the driver said, "No, you must stop here. You must stop here." So I really felt at home because it's like in Italy that you stop your travel is managed by the cuisine. So let's start here. Let's stop here. It's lunchtime. Let's go. There is a fantastic restaurant I recommend to everybody in Shaki. It's called Gagarin because it's like a travel on the time of Soviet Union, and so you have all this decoration of these cosmonauts and the spaceships from the old time of Russia of United Soviet Union, and you eat really traditional food in this scenography that's very trendy in this moment in Europe. You know, the old communist decoration.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much for that. And
Wow.
Andrea, just very quickly, do you have a favorite local dish? A local dish that you enjoy, particularly with your wines? Is there anything you can just give us a flavor of?
Okay, I have a quite experience. It's a rich cuisine culture here, and as Giulio said, it's full of influence from Russian. I can mention the borscht, that is the red soup, and then the meat. They love meat in all sorts of way: chicken, lamb, and the kebab. So Saperavi, we have a little agritourism, and we have our host. Saperavi is always matched with the kebab.
We noticed that.
We started this agritourism a few years ago, and Florian was one of the biggest fan and helped us a lot in that direction. And from Baku, you know, the city life is pretty heavy, especially in a city of 4 million, 5 million of people. You are in London, so you know what I meant. The people come to decompress, you know, and they match a lot of the saperavi with the kebab, lula kebab, or the ash. The ash is this typical dish that is more iron dish with the carbon and the hot and the fat, and with on the top all sort of meat. So you can select which is your favorite one, and the fruits together. So apple, pear, or what else? I have my colleagues here that is much better chef than me, and this is how they used to drink saperavi.
Sounds delicious. That sounds delicious. You are beckoning us along. You are beckoning us along. Now we've got a certain amount of time, so we must get in some more questions. Am I right, Rowena? Have you a question?
Yes, Rebecca, thanks. I have. It's a bit more of a technical question. I suspect because the wine industry there is fairly young. I read somewhere it doesn't yet have an appellation system, but that's under development. And I just wondered if, as that develops, you're likely to give preference or to give greater status, if you like, to the more indigenous grape varieties that you say Azerbaijan is looking to preserve and promote.
Can I answer, Rebecca?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Sorry, no. I'm sorry. Yeah, we are working on it with the of course with the government, and I was involved in that. I made the research, and we want to of course to create appellation. Please don't forget that Azerbaijan is a really young country. So when I came 10 years ago, there was just a start, and now we reveal and we recover the grapes business. So now we are stepping in that. Yes, we want to separate the Azerbaijan in few appellation, more like American appellation, not complicated like a European, which is really great, but for the general customer is too complicated. So we want to create what we call in Italy geographical appellation. So we are thinking about to connect the geographical appellation with the few deeper appellation for for the indigenous varieties. So, for example, Ismaili, it's what in the Russian appellation was Shirvan region. Then there is Absheron region, the hottest part where is Baku exactly. Then there will be the Ganja appellation just on the southern part. So we are working on it, but it's definitely the next step to be in the international market, let's say. So it's very important not just to talk about the indigenous variety, but where it's grown. And Azerbaijan is full of microclimate. We know that there is 7 different climates around Azerbaijan, so it's very diversified. And this diversification in climate, and I would say also in the soil, you need to address in an appellation, because I assure you the madrasa that I produce now in Ismaili is not the same that they used to produce in the Absheron region. So due to the different climate, so we need to work on it.
Well, brilliant question, Rowena. Thank you so much for asking that. And I know that, Andrea, you had some of your appellation slides on the handout that I have sent to everyone with your kind permission.
Okay, that's great.
So there's about 4 slides on that. It's called A Great Winemaking in Azerbaijan, and on that it's got some of the boundaries, so that should tie in nicely for that. So more questions, please. I believe Mark Radar, you have a question. May we please put your question to our panelists? So Mark, I think you're joining us in from South Africa.
Wow.
Is it Mark Radar? Maybe we've lost him just for the moment. Ah, there you are. There you are. Good to see you. Are you going to, would you like to ask your question about the stainless steel and oak? So is it, the question is, are amphorae still used, Andrea?
Sorry, I didn't hear you clearly.
The question was, are amphorae still used, or are they used at all in Azerbaijan? We hear about them being used in other places, but we wondered, what are they used? Ah, look.
Here we go. Yeah.
That's a beautiful orange wine.
I'm so sad that you can't drink this one. This is a wine made with the traditional Caucasian winemaking. That means Kevri, amphora, okay? Georgian are considered the most skilled in that, but don't forget that a century ago, there was not Georgia, there was not Azerbaijan. So there was a tribe, a community which shared the same way to make wine. That's so yes, there is still people which work in that way. Of course, this is not the way I talk with the old people, the old winemakers, let's say, which they produce wine in the amphora, and but I just revisit that, and we produce this wine and we call vino raro. Raro, you know, rare in Italian. And yes, there is people that use still that technique, and someone, it's like my grandfather used to make the wine, so it's not really nice to drink. But if you catch from these old people, some like keep 3 months the skin in contact in the white grapes, so ferment for 20 days the red grapes in amphora, then separate. So you can get some hint, some idea, and it's good to keep this philosophy of making wine. And we did that with the vino raro. It's not filtered, there is not CO2, it's the natural wine, it's amber wine. We export totally in Japan, because apparently Japan are crazy for amber wine, orange wine. So the amphora is always connected with the orange wine. It's where orange wine comes.
We can't wait to come and try that as well, and to see how they compare. Now, I believe Simon Field, you have a question.
Yeah, Andrea, thanks so much for wonderful tasting. I did a bit of very basic research earlier on, and I gather that in Azerbaijan you make 10 times more wine than we make in the UK, which is fair enough, but you make 1/10 of the wine that's made in Georgia, which is your neighbor, and you make 1/1000th of the wine that is made in Italy or Spain or France. So you've got a lot of work to do. And I also read that your main export market was Russia. 95% of your wine goes to Russia. So are you looking to grow the vineyards, and are you looking to expand on the export market? Congratulations, by the way, on making the wines that are so good, indigenous varietals that taste international, but they don't taste Italian. So bravo. Well done.
Thank you. This is a great compliment. Thank you. I mean, I'm really happy to hear that. Yeah, my aim, beside I have in Italy also the winery, is to disconnect that. Of course, when I come here, I bring my Italian soul, but I try many times not to mix up, and this is a good compliment, because I really want that the people test Azerbaijani. That's why I also that sometimes I don't want to show up, because I want that Azerbaijan and not Italian make a wine, because I want always to point out that this is not Andrea that make wines, but it's a group of people, and it's an effort of many people. We are 150 people in Chabiant that make this wine. Never to consider the winemaker the person who creates the wine. Sometimes there is just a misunderstanding, and let's be clear in that. Yeah, coming back to your question, yes, we produce a lot of wine in Russia, and in this, it's how it is. So Europe doesn't see so much this side of world. And it was like, for me, the same. When I came here, I said, where is Azerbaijan? Okay, let's do, I'm a gypsy winemaker, so I love to travel a lot, and I got the challenge. But then I came here and I noticed that Ricazzatelli, for example, is one of the biggest grapes grown around the world. No, it's the second or third, maybe now lost some position, but I was never heard about Ricazzatelli, for example, that is considered rare wine, but not here. And of course, Azerbaijani wine was popular during the Russian time, except of Gorbachev time, where it was the time of prohibition, where most of the wine culture get blasted and wiped out from the anti-alcohol propaganda. But before that propaganda, it's amazing. I went to the Institute of Baku. I saw beautiful labels, like you get all the French wine from the cellar, from the underground cellar, with the amazing labels, which Madrasa Azerbaijan or Saperavi from Azerbaijan. There was a lot of wine. Not only there was a huge market of basic wine, that for sure, because Russian mostly drink basic wine. He used to drink basic wine, but there was also a very nice and very well done packaging wine. So Russian is still the most important market for us. And now we are expanding in Europe. Honestly speaking, we found some friction on the south of Europe, of course, because south of Europe, so like Italian, Spain, they are a little bit reluctant, to accept new wine. We produce wine, what you want. This is the only wine in the world is our. But from the north of Europe, Poland, we are in Poland, now we are opening in Poland, we are in Riga, we are in Vilnius, we are in Tallinn, we are trying to be in London. Hopefully we will do soon. Yeah, we are moving. We have some contact in USA. We are in Japan with the Vino Raro. We are in China, which is very important for us, especially Shanghai and Beijing. They are the two cities which is located our wine. So it's expanding, and the fair, thanks to the tourist board and the Azerbaijan legislators. They are pushing, and they put us in the spotlight in Düsseldorf rather than in Provence in Moscow. So there is a lot of working boiling up, and and the point is indigenous grapes. So we can win if we create a wine which is suitable for the international market. And I think not just Chabiant, but generally the wineries in Azerbaijan, they are achieving all the targets, and respecting the characteristic and the featuring of the wine. So that's why there is no point for me to produce. I love to combine Saperave and Madrasa, but there is no point to do that. I wanted to test the Madrasa, because through the Madrasa, through that glass of Madrasa, I can tell you where is growth in Ismaili. What is Ismaili? Ismaili is a little city district where there is Ivanovka. Ivanovka is another little where we have the vineyards. There is the Russian community there. I can, you can deliver much better the heritage like this. And I think we are doing well. Maybe I talk too much. Sorry.
Amazing question. Well, I'm looking at the clock, and it's such an interesting question. I know lots of people are interested in the UK market. Nigel, did you have a question that you wanted to put to Andrea about the UK market? I think the question has been, when are we going to see it in the UK market? You've given us a few little hints there. So who would like to ask a question now? Hans, could you raise your hand so I can see? Duncan. Thank you, Duncan.
Right, with you. It's a comment and a question. First of all, congratulations on sticking to your indigenous grapes and specializing rather than going for bulk markets where you're going to get swamped by lots of horrible cheap stuff from other countries. And it's really a question, do you want to be a Lidl or do you want to be a Harvey Nichols? Very impressed by all the wines. We've traveled a great deal in Georgia, Azerbaijan, and particularly Russia. So tonight we're going to actually drink some of these wines with some Siberian pelmeni and satsiki.
Wow.
The last question, of course, obviously, is when can we get some?
We are working on it, and maybe with this kind of outcome, we can even to make it faster. But we are working on it. British market is not so easy for the winery from this side, but we are really on the way to be in England and the north of Europe. We will keep you posted, what I can say. But we have few contacts, and we are working on it.
Thank you for that. We're very excited about this, and there's so many questions, Andrea. So next up, please, is Alistair, and then we're going to Edward and Katie, then we're going to Wyla, and then we're going to Rosemary and Simon. So first up, please, Alistair.
So firstly, thank you everybody so much, Elizabeth and Giulio and Andrea and Rebecca, for so much interesting information and insight. We've sort of partially covered this, but I just wondered if anybody was able to sort of give a bit of a flavour of how wine fits into Azerbaijan culture, given the fact that it's such a mixture of different cultures. You know, you've got a big Islamic influence, which would potentially sort of mean that wine doesn't have such a large role. You've got the post-Soviet, you've got, you know, all of the various cultures that have moved in and out of the Caucasus over the years. What does a traditional sort of Azerbaijani family view wine as sort of being part of their life? Is that staying the same, or where's that going?
Fantastic question. Giulio, would you like to answer that first and then maybe hand over to Andrea?
I will answer in a very easy way. It depends on which family we're talking about, because we have Christian, Muslim, and Muslim we have Shias and Sunnis, and we have Jewish, and we have Zoroastrian. So it depends of which family you are talking about. The vision of wine is different. Clearly, from some religious issues, some people will not drink wine, but they have nothing against. You can share the table and have a wine, and the other one have not. There's no absolutely concern about that. And what is interesting to understand is that before the famous Silk Road, there was other influence, and the wine arrived. So maybe the cultural issue has changed the perception in some communities, but it's something traditional.
Okay.
It's something imported. It's not like, let's say, in many other countries, the wine arrived with the colonizers, no? With the colony or whatever. No, it's something that always was there. And for example, many in the previous time, they used to take the grape, and because there were a group of a region that they were Muslims. So what they do is they make grape jelly. So they still use the grape, but in a not alcoholic way. So they make jelly, and they make fantastic salad using this jelly, like in the Lebanese fatouche.
Fantastic.
So there is many ways. We have, I think, a standard way to see the grape. Grape is to make wine, but you can eat it, and you can modify his body in a different ways. So many of the gastronomy of some of Azerbaijan have grapes either if is how you call if it's approved by religion, Muslim religion, but clearly because they use not without alcohol. So is it really so difficult to explain, that which family, as you say, you like toast? It depends. In my home, they like toast, but maybe my neighbor don't like. It's like that.
And thank you very much for that answer. That was a very, very interesting. Andrea, is there anything you'd like to add to that? We still have a queue of questions.
Yeah, let's be briefly. In Azerbaijan, wine is largely loved, and you can hang out with friends which are Orthodox, Islamic, Jewish. There is who drink, who doesn't drink, and we enjoy the night. So it's really multicultural country where the religion is so respectful, where when you hang out with people, the religion doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter. You can be Islamic, you can be Orthodox, you can be whatever you want. And you drink wine, I drink orange juice, and we enjoy the night. But there is a full respect, and there is a good consumption locally. It's 50% of our wine. It's consumed in Azerbaijan. So there is not the matters of religion here.
That sounds, I love it. It wants me to come, makes me want to come even more now. Love that idea of mixing together. May we go to Wylups, because you haven't had a question yet. So Wylup, your time.
Yeah, actually, my question has been answered very nicely by already, because it's around the context of wine in a country which is largely Muslim, and I'm so pleased to hear there's tolerance and respect for other religions. It's making me want to go there even more in this age where there's increasing intolerance of other cultures around us. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Wylup. Again, getting us all excited. May we go to Edward and Katie?
Sure. So mine was more back to winemaking rather than culture. I was curious to know whether you, so you said you don't use new oak for the Saperavi and Cabernet Sauvignon, and whether that's something that you might experiment with in the future or something that you don't think would suit the wine. and whether you're thinking more about that.
No, it's the philosophy of my winemaking. I have nothing against the new oak, but I think that the second passage suit much better our philosophy. So in the Saperavi, there is vanilla, there is toasting, so it is barrel. Is not some, but I like that it comes at the after tasting, so it's not something that overtake the wine, but is just behind the variety. I love the taste, but I like when the matrix, the two components, they are a little bit disconnected, so I can appreciate the wine, and then I have these toasting oak flavors, and also the after tasting I have this bitterness that many winemakers would to kill in somehow. I love to keep because I like the wine with a little bit of vibrance and the bitter hands, and the Saperavi and has this kind of after tasting, so we keep that after tasting. We are going probably to use new oak, but a big bottle. We are just waiting for. They are coming. They are on the track, but you know how it's complicated now to move stuff from here to there.
Cool. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much for that lovely question and answer. And so may we go please to Simon and Rosemary.
Thank you, and everyone. Thank you very much indeed for this evening. Fascinating, Elizabeth for fixing it, and Rebecca hosting it, and Andrea and Giulio for informing us. Andrea, the question is for you. Where would you like to be in 5 years' time in terms of the development of your winemaking?
My winemaking personal or?
No, for where you are now in terms of taking your wine and the grapes you use 5 years forward. Any?
My target is to keep the wine. So we achieved this, and I'm quite happy. I also yesterday told to Rebecca that I'm never satisfied about my wine. I'm the first negative in my wine, so this is make me to try to make the wine better. And I know that the Madrasa can be much better, and there is something that I can smooth a little bit and to make it better. So this is my target for the wine, the current wine. I'm pretty satisfied about Saperavi and Bayan Shira. Bayan Shira is a wine which you can't ask too much. It's fragile grapes, so you have to respect and to do the wine that you have. I don't want to, I don't know, age in the barrels, to struggle to turn the wine. Philosophy here, in my point of view, it's to accompany the grapes. I'm not that kind of winemaker that, okay, I want to turn you. So I accompany. This is the wine that you can get. This is what we will deliver to our clients. So keeping in mind that I love all the wine when they are clean. There is not dark smell. So I like when Rebecca said that it's clean. This is the most important character that I want to find in my wine. So this is I want to keep. Then I want to come with the new indigenous variety. The only target now is that we are in the phase where we have our little nursery. We went around Azerbaijan, and due to the Gorbachev time, we lost a lot of vineyards with the indigenous varieties. So to find in the little grower with the mixed vineyards, to find 2 or 3 plants of Arnagarna, Melai, King Donis is very tough. But we collect all of these grapes. Now we have the mother vineyards, and we are propagating the vineyards. So then the next step is to graft these selected indigenous varieties and to make. See, this is my target in the Azerbaijani winemaking. Yeah, definitely is to bring out new indigenous varieties because there is a huge potential.
Thank you for that. So I think we have time for 2 more questions. So there's been a question from Gary. Gary, would you like to ask your question, or do you want me to read it out? It would be great to hear you ask it. Gary, are you still with us?
Yes, I am. You mentioned Gorbachev just now, and I just wondered, what was the impact of his actions in terms of the age of the vines that you now have? I mean, lots of them got destroyed. So does that mean that a lot of your vineyards are now fairly young?
I'm sorry, but I hear you break it.
So the question is the age of the vines that you have, was that impacted by Gorbachev's restrictions when they were in place? So has that impacted the age of the vines that you have?
Absolutely. So my oldest vineyards is 20 years old, 15. So I have not the chance to work with the older plants. Maybe one time I found a very old Madrasa vineyards lost somewhere in sopra Ganja, above of Ganja, but it was really small. So yes, it affects. And one of the things where I can improve a Madrasa is with the age of the plants. I'm totally sure where they will be older than what they are currently, they will make better wine. So indigenous, they have to be older and to get better.
That's a very interesting question. Thank you for asking that, Gary, and thank you for your very eloquent answer, Andrea. So final question, Kieran, it goes to you. You have the floor.
Lucky guy.
Hi. Obviously, first things first, thank you so much for putting this together. It's been really, really interesting and also amazing to try some wines that I probably wouldn't have had much exposure to otherwise. My question is to you, Andrea, and kind of runs off the back of the question before the last, when you mentioned that you really have the goal of trying to promote the indigenous varieties. I'm just wondering, well, it's two parts. First thing is, I'm wondering how the reception has been on the international market of your indigenous varieties versus your Saperavi Cabernet blend. And then the second question is, do you feel like maybe you might, I guess, with the Saperavi Cabernet being such a well-known and very relatively recognizable combination, in particular having the Cabernet and to a lesser extent the Saperavi, do you find that that might help to be more of a first step in the door onto the international markets, and then off the back of that you feel that you can really then bring in your indigenous varieties as well once that exposure to Azerbaijani wines in the first place has been established?
Yeah.
Question.
Please. Sorry. Saperavi Cabernet, it's popular here, but not in Europe. So when we present to Europe, is a good door openers, we say. So there is the curiosity because apart from Germany, which Saperavi is pretty known because Germany has wineries in Georgia, so they used to drink Saperavi. The rest of the region are very interesting about Saperavi, and mostly the south of Europe, like Italy, France, and Spain, they don't know what is Saperavi. So it's a good tool. In Russian, it's Madrasa most the biggest door opener. Because Saperavi is really well known, and from cultural point of view, they connect always Saperavi with Georgian wine. So it's hard to lose this connection, to break this connection. So yeah, this is the. But eventually, Bayan Shira, Saperavi, and Cabernet, they are both useful to break the new market. And then we buy them. We can introduce our entry-level line, which is cheaper, but good for to be in the, not just in the restaurant, but also in the GDO. So they are fantastic tools to open the door. Madrasa more in the Europe and USA, Saperavi Cabernet more in the Europe side of the world, and Madrasa from Russia and China is much better. And Bayan. Is it clear?
That's really interesting. Thank you. Yeah. That perfectly answers. Thank you.
That was a wonderful question and an exciting question, really opening the door to the marketplace and how to best penetrate that marketplace. So thank you for that question, Kieran. And I think it would just be great to have a show of hands. I know it's a little tricky on the Zoom, but you know, out of these 3 beautiful wines that we've had this evening, which was your favorite? I know it's difficult to pick a favorite, but just for this moment in time, I'd like to have a raise the hand, a physical hand, or you can do the hand on the sign. Which is your favorite? So Leonardo and Elizabeth, help me spot this. Hands up if it is the Bayan Shira, the white wine, as your favorite. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about that and co. Thank you very much. And how about the Madrasa? The Madrasa, who's going for Madrasa? Okay, so that's quite a few hands there. And yeah, okay. Very equal. Oh no, maybe slightly more because of the second screen there. And finally, the Cabernet Saperavi. Who's going for that one? Okay, so it is very well metered out. It's well metered out. In fact, I would say it's 30, 30, 30, Elizabeth. Am I right?
Yes, it's about a third. That's amazing.
That's what you want. That's what you want. So,
that rarely happens.
I think we could be here all evening because we're clearly so fascinated, Giulio and Andrea, where you have opened the door to the gates to Azerbaijan for us. We felt, you know, worried that we didn't know so much, but you have helped us to learn more, and you've given us so much to think about, so much inspiration. We've got travel plans in the back of our minds for when we can travel, and I think you're going to make it an exciting time for us because of all the ideas that we've got to taste your wines, to learn about the culture, to enjoy the diversity of the culture, the great skills of all the arts and crafts, as well as the beautiful wines. We definitely want to come and visit you at Chabiant, Andrea. And please, everybody, will you join me in thanking Andrea for his wonderful talk to us? Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
Please, may we also thank Giulio for his wonderful insights into the cultures and all the different things we can explore. So Giulio, thank you also for joining us. And then, of course, we would love to thank the Azerbaijan Tourist Board, who have put this whole thing together, who have shipped the wine to us and got it to Carol at the wine reserve, who then efficiently dispatched it all to us. So Azerbaijan Tourist Board, we thank you hugely for your great generosity in putting this all together. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And finally, we would like to say a big thank you to Elizabeth Linder of Broach Associates, because it's Elizabeth that is helping us to understand this amazing country and its amazing culture. So Elizabeth, thank you so much. And thank you so much for choosing the RLWS to be the community to learn about these beautiful wines, first of all. That means a great deal to us. We feel very honored about that. And finally, Azerbaijan Tourist Board, Giulio, Andrea, and Elizabeth, and myself, we all want to thank you for coming this evening and being so enthusiastic about it and being so patient, because we sort of dangled a carrot before Christmas, and then we had to say, wait a bit longer, please. And we've finally done it. We've done it.